Light up your night with The Kevin Smith Show. Hi, this is Kevin Smith. Join me Monday through Friday right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Paranormal Radio. Paranormal Radio. The Church of Mabus.
Hiding from the sky, along with the apparently and historic.
Shut down our government defense system. We do believe in and we are
continuing strong at the United States Air Force is withholding information from the general public on this subject.
The Church of Mabus.
Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show, everybody. We're back with you. It's Saturday night, and we're coming at you live. Tonight, Andy Colvin, Mothman photographer, is co-hosting, and we're interviewing the Bigfoot chicks, which we'll be getting into Bigfoot and their investigations, and we'll be getting into the almighty Sasquatch, because that's how we roll. Me and Andy have done a lot of Sasquatch shows together. I don't know, this is like our 6th or 7th Sasquatch show. I don't even know anymore. It's been a lot. How many? It's been, more than 5, I know, right, Andy?
Yeah, we're doing a book. This is, I'm taking my whatever my approach it is that I have, and I'm going to be doing something specifically about Bigfoot, because I've had quite a few experiences.
Yeah, and you're going to be, and you're going to use the transcripts, actually, from a lot of these shows in the book, right?
That's right.
That's awesome. So, that's right. And all these Bigfoot shows are going to be assembled into a book on some level, and that's good for the guests, that's good for the show, that's good for Andy, that's good for me. So it's going to be really, really cool. Can't wait to see the finished copy, and definitely going to be kick-ass. So Andy just had a new book come out, The Mothman Shrieks. How's it been doing, Andy?
It's been doing good. I think usually August and September aren't that great anyway. Everybody's on vacation, so. But, yeah, it definitely got off to a good start.
Yeah, and you can, The Mothman Shrieks, you can find that. Where's the best place? Amazon.com. It's a great book and a series of books about the Mothman, and if you want your Mothman fix, it's definitely the way to go with Andy's book. So definitely check Amazon.com, and where else is the best place to look for those?
Oh, that's about it. It just came out on Kindle, by the way, and I do cover Bigfoot in the Mothman books, too. So what I'm going to do is just have some new stuff from these interviews and also pull some old stuff where I've already described some of my experiences and put those in there. So it'll be condensed into just Bigfoot. So
very cool.
It really far out stuff.
Yeah, the Bigfoot community, I've been involved in it heavily lately, the past year. I've always liked Bigfoot. I've always had an interest in that subject, but I started interviewing personalities from the Bigfoot community, and it's definitely some fascinating stuff. The different belief systems based around it, from the Native American to just a plain undiscovered creature theory. So there's definitely And I get a lot of my stuff gets reposted on Bigfoot evidence too. Like if I'm interviewing someone, I'll purposely ask the alien Bigfoot question just so see what their answer is, and then they'll repost that on Bigfoot evidence, and everyone goes, people are serious about Bigfoot. Like you can make some of my articles have caused riots over at Bigfoot evidence, just because I asked what the UFO Bigfoot connection was. And I'm not even saying there is a UFO Bigfoot connection, but there could be. I'm not denying it either. But some people just go wild when you bring up that subject. They want to kill you. But Bigfoot evidence... Well,
I think everybody was kind of bruised after that whole Bigfoot body hoax. You know, everybody just... that was such a blow in a way to the credibility of the...
Definitely. And now the big story is the Bigfoot Justin Smeja story, which I interviewed him. That's been around for a while, but that's the new.
Did I tell you about the crazy story I heard? I just went on a Sasquatch hunt up in the Cascades here in near Seattle. I went with some guys. They were with me last year when we saw that strange UFO that seemed to turn into a flying person or something. The one we photographed, these guys work at Boeing and they're technicians, and as far as hunting Squatch, they're not out to kill Sasquatch, but they are really, really experienced hunters who are hunting at the top level. They're going after mountain lions and stuff, you know, like with a bow and arrow. And but they can machine any kind of gun, very elaborate guns and strange things. They have trail cams that you could actually fire remotely if you wanted to. They don't do that, but they were telling me that when we were setting up the trail cams, that they have some that can be hooked up to guns and things and shot from the internet. Not that they believe that in that at all. They're totally like old school traditional hunters who are doing it just for meat during the winter, kind of thing.
Interesting.
But as far as Sasquatch goes, they totally respect him and would never shoot him. We're just interested in finding out, that these guys are from the area and they've heard all the stories going way back. And what was I going to say? We heard about this guy who ate a Sasquatch. He killed and ate a Sasquatch because he had to survive in the snow. He was like trapped on the hill or on a mountain. And previously we had heard about the Sasquatch that had bent a guy's rifle barrel. There's all kinds of crazy stories like that up here, some of which seem to bear out. But other things like the Memorial Day footage, if you recall, that actually was... that hoax was exposed by the guy that I go hunting with. He's a mysterious fellow named Billy Bob. And Billy Bob found out that the Memorial Day footage had been hoaxed, which I think we announced on this show earlier this year, didn't we?
I believe so. I'll never understand why people hoax stuff, or, the only reason I do this show is because I've seen strange paranormal stuff after I was healed from cancer and my father passed away. A lot of strange things. I just don't even understand the mentality of hoaxing stuff. It's like if I never saw a lot of weird stuff, I wouldn't be here right now doing this show at all. Like, that's the truth. If it wasn't for seeing, strange things, you wouldn't even know who I was. This stuff happened to me, so that's why I do the show. It's my way of dealing with it psychologically and trying to find my sanity after seeing some of the things I've seen. But, the hoax thing, it drives me nuts. But let's get to the Bigfoot chicks and get this party started. If you could... Bigfoot Chicks, the team, introduce yourselves one at a time and kind of let us know what your gig is within your team, what your specialty is and that type of thing, your place in the team.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Melissa, and I've been doing Bigfoot research for 7 years, and I first got started into it with the BFRO, and I was an active investigator with them for several years, and then I eventually went on and met other groups. went on a lot of different expeditions all over the country, and have had some really interesting experiences. And I guess it's been a year or so ago, we met up with Rob, and we formed the Bigfoot Chicks team, and we've been doing a lot of expeditions together, having a lot of fun, and kind of, I guess, started going more into the online community and showing what we've been doing in the online community. So I guess we're all a team. We all kind of share in it. I do a lot of maintaining and posting on the blog. A lot of work in front of the camera, but we all kind of share in that responsibility. And I'll pass it over to Angela.
Hello, my name is Angela. I have been involved in Bigfoot research for a little over 3 years now. Melissa's the one that got me into it, and it started also with the BFRO, and then we kind of branched out onto our own. We go out with a lot of different groups. We enjoy meeting new groups and meeting and learning new techniques from other people. My role, I am a photographer, but I don't know what I do. I'm along for the ride, I guess.
So I have a question, kind of a second question for you, Angela. So how did Melissa get you into Bigfoot? How did that take place? How does someone get someone else into Bigfoot? Like, hey, it's out here, it's cool. Did she just kind of get you interested in the subject? What did you find fascinating about Bigfoot that drew you into it?
Well, she and her husband, they're good friends of mine, and I had heard them talk some stories. I had Jerry they're both really good storytellers, and so both of them individually had told me amazing accounts they had experiences they had been through, things they had seen, things they had heard. So I knew that they were into Bigfoot research, and then there was an expedition coming up in Georgia, and I kind of invited myself along. Melissa had invited another friend, and I kind of, hey, let me come too. So this went to a BFR expedition in Georgia, and I immediately fell in love with the whole experience. Not just, I love being in the woods, I love, being amongst nature, but also just the thrill of, investigating this creature that there's just not much known about it. And so that's what really got me into it was the mystery of it. That's what I enjoy about it the most, I think.
Okay. Who's next? Rob?
This is Rob. I'm in Louisiana. I've been doing Bigfoot research since 2003. So I guess I've been doing it for about 8 or 9 years. And I've been around a while and seen a lot of things and know a lot of people. And I've been with a lot of different groups, and I've maintained great relationships with everybody. And whenever I came across Angela and Melissa, we really hit it off. I felt like, we obviously, having a couple of women that are as passionate and as capable as Melissa and Angela are in the field is invaluable to research. It certainly isn't the reason that we're paired up, and we're a great team, but it's definitely a position of value for research, from that angle alone. So I had the chance to work with these guys, and we've had some great experiences that we're happy to share here with you guys tonight.
Definitely. First off, I just wanted to know, whoever's best suited to answer this, feel free. First off, what is your perspective on what Bigfoot actually possibly could be or is?
Okay, I'll take it. We feel that he is, assuming he actually exists, we feel that it's a physical being somewhere between man and animal, highly intelligent, probably has been around for a very, very, very long time, has some highly developed sensory abilities that allow it to be elusive, and that it possesses extremely high intelligence, probably similar to our own.
Yeah, definitely. There's an enigma about it, a mystery, and I do believe they exist. And I mean, there's Native American folklore stories about these beings. There's even recently I came across a strange story about, and it had pictures at this site that had this King Og from the Bible. And it was like this Bigfoot sitting in a throne with all these people around it, like a medieval painting. I was like, what the hell is this, man? There's some weird Bigfoot stuff out there. Like, there's some people that believe this King Og from the Bible spawned them all, which I don't know if that's true or not. But there's just so many weird stories out there about Bigfoot. And then there's a story, of course, that some people think they're the Nephilim from the Bible, like, descendants of when the aliens came down and shagged the chicks and made mutant babies and stuff. So there's all kinds of weird things. And then, of course, there's just the wild, animal. The Native American perspective is they're wild people. They're just like us, but they're wilder, and they're more in tune with nature, and they can, blend in and, with, kind of into a different reality, sort of like camouflage sort of thing. So there's just so many things that, different perspectives out there. So what are some of your experiences that you've had? Because you say you assume it exists, but if you've had some experiences, explain that to me exactly.
Well, I've had a lot of interesting experiences. Each of us have had some experiences, and I would like to believe that they are Bigfoot, because I haven't seen it with my own eyes. I can't say, 100% that it was absolutely Bigfoot, but I'd like to believe that it is. One of my, probably the best story that I can share, the most exciting thing that's happened to me since I've been out in the field, was an experience I had in West Virginia. I was with a group of 13 people. There had been 3 of that original group that had gone about a half mile down a trail alongside a river, and they had hiked in with their lights on and found a rock and sat down and turned out their lights, and they just listened for a while. And they, were just enjoying the night, and it was a real cool night, and they heard a growl, and it was two men and a woman, and they, when they heard the growl, the woman became really frightened that was with them, and so they stayed for a few minutes, and then they heard another growl, and after that, they started to hear things kind of falling around them, and they realized that there weren't things falling, things were being thrown at them, and the woman that was with them was extremely new to the whole Bigfoot thing. She didn't know anything about it, and she was terrified. And so they all got unnerved by it, and they got her out of there and got her down the trail and back to the main group. And that's when they met all of us and told us of their experience. And so 10 of us went back with those original 3, so it was 13 of us. We went back to the same place, found the same rock, went in the same way, turned out our lights, sat down and listened, and of course nothing happened. So we were a little disappointed, and then we decided maybe there's just too many of us. So we split our group, and about 7 of us went up the trail, and then 6 of us remained back at the rock, and I was with the group that remained back at the rock. And as we were there, when the groups got into position, we radioed back and forth, and we decided that we would do a tree knock. And there was a guy in my group that was a huge man, like a linebacker of a guy, and he had a wooden baseball bat. He stepped up to this tree, and we radioed that we were going to make this tree knock, and he smacked this tree, and it was really, really loud. He was, like I said, he was a huge, big, strong guy, and I don't think anybody could have whacked that tree any harder. And so the group, up ahead, it radioed back that they heard the knock, and this went back and forth a couple of times, and then after this, I believe it was the second time, this guy went to do a tree knock. Just as soon as he finished his tree knock, we heard a huge, huge, huge response that came somewhere between the 2 groups, and the sound of this tree knock dwarfed sound that this man had made with the bat, and so we were all just kind of, our eyes were like saucers, and the other group radioed back, that wasn't us, we didn't do that. And so it was just kind of amazing, and we all just kind of stood there and were in awe of what had just happened, and then we decided to make some calls. So we called back and forth. We howled back and forth to each other a couple of times, and then after that had happened a couple of times, this huge howl, this classic, what's known in the Bigfoot circles as the Ohio type howl that comes off the BFRO website. This classic howl, we all heard it, all of us in both groups, came off the ridge up behind us, and it just came out of a huge, huge chest, and it sounded like somewhere between a man and an animal screaming, and more man-like than animal, and it was just huge, came out of a huge chest cavity. It didn't sound, it dwarfed any of the things the guys that were with us could have done. And it was just really, really amazing. So we stayed there, and we, tried to get more interaction with them. And then we started hearing things falling out of trees. And after a while, we realized that things weren't falling out of trees. Things were being thrown at us. And I was at the end of the group, and I had third-generation night vision, which, if you've never used that, it's like looking through daylight. You can see everything perfectly around you. So I had that, and I was looking around. I'd walked a little ways from, a few steps from my group, and had turned back and was looking at my group with the night vision. And as I was doing that, I heard something fall behind the group, and I turned and I looked, and then I saw like a log go over the tallest guy's head and land behind him. And I heard when that happened, I let them know that the people in the group, that's what had happened, that I'd seen something, go over them, and I handed the night vision to the guy next to me and said, look around and see if you see anything, because I'm not seeing anything. And if he couldn't see anything, asked it back to me, and I could hear movement down in the creek bed. And that's when I became a little unnerved, because I could hear things moving around me. And I had this really great night vision, but I couldn't see anything. It was really unnerving to me a little bit to know that something that big was really, really close. I couldn't see it, assuming that's what it was. So that went on for a while. It was also the first freeze, and we were all freezing to death. So we were out there for about an hour and a half, and 20-degree weather, and we were just frozen at that point. So we decided to go back into camp and just and tell the others that hadn't come out with us of the experience, and some others went back. But that was probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me in the field so far, that went on for so long, and so many things to happen in a space of time like that.
Gotcha. So definitely, to be out there and have something like that happen, it's got to definitely be spooky. I know around here there's a fucker around, and I didn't even know there were panthers in Florida until I heard one night, and it sounded like someone was being sexually assaulted in the woods, and it freaked me out. And then I found out from a neighbor that it was a Florida panther, and I was like, what? There's a Florida panther? There's panthers out here? So it's like every time I go for a walk now, I take my taser. So in case I run into a Florida panther, which a taser probably wouldn't do anything but piss it off and make it kill me worse. But nonetheless, Andy, you got some questions up your Mothman sleeve?
No, I wanted to cover that sighting a little more, because I'm from West Virginia, and having experiences like that in the woods there is not uncommon. The locals would probably say that was Old Scratch in his Inviso mode. Old Scratch is kind of believe it or not, it's like a Black Panther that it can change into a Bigfoot or anything, supposedly. But I saw it once, but it wasn't in West Virginia. But it's kind of weird. But I saw something move. I saw something moving stuff to the side, but there was nothing there. But where was that sighting in West Virginia exactly? Do you remember?
I do know where it was. It was near the Watauga State Park area. So I'm not sure what the nearest city is, but it was near that area.
We're trying to.
Yeah, we actually have I was going to chime in and just tell you we have an outing planned in Oklahoma in 3 weeks, and Angela and Melissa 2 weeks. I know they keep my calendar for me. They're driving over, and we're going out for a week. We're going to do a 75-mile trail and spend about, I guess you guys are going to be over here for like 10 days, right?
Right.
We're doing the Oklahoma research trip, and then we're going to be in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Stillwell, Oklahoma, at the Maverick event, where we'll be doing a presentation. And but we've been to this Oklahoma area several times already, and we haven't had. It seems like it's been kind of quiet lately, frankly, in the doing research. We've had a few interesting things, but nothing earth-shattering. The last couple of years really have been kind of quiet, and I'm not sure if that's a trend or maybe we've just been unlucky. But I know in 2009 I was in Stillwell, and I should have known the name of that. I've been there before. I was in Stillwell with Maverick. Maverick is the Mid-America Bigfoot Research Center. It's started by Darren D.W. and great group of guys. And in 2009, I was walking up a gravel road to a paved highway that was in the mountains, and there were about 5 of us. It was about 10 p.m. and we're walking up this road, kind of an incline. It kind of led up to the level of, and we had just walked away from the fire. We were just kind of relaxing, and we were just walking around. And it's kind of those times, I think, that you have something happen, is when you're really not expecting it. We did have all of our gear, but we really weren't prepared. And we all 5 of us saw it at the same time, and it was across the road from us. What we saw were 2 bright, huge eyes across the road from us staring at us, and these eyes were 8 feet off the ground. We were just shocked, and I can still remember, all of us saw it at the same time, and we only saw it for a second, and you can't miss it. I mean, it's pitch black. We have our flashlights, and these 2 bright green eyes are staring back at us from across the road, and I remember seeing 2 eyes, then I saw 1 eye, and then I saw none, and to me the head turned is what had happened, and so your heart starts pounding, you're grabbing your gear. I had a parabolic mic with me. I didn't have the headphones on, so I threw the headphones on real quick and pointed the mic that direction, and I couldn't hear anything. And for a few seconds, it was just really, really quiet. And, just to show how this affects you kind of in a, they say you get zapped. I think it's just human nature. It's maybe fight or flight that takes hold. But I reached up and felt my headphones, and I had taken them and I had put them on so that the headphones are facing out. So, you do things so quickly that you're going to make mistakes. And so, but that was the one experience I had that I would point to that was, to me was irrefutable. There was nothing else that could have been. These eyes, and we went up to where the eyes were, and we were able to measure because it was actually standing behind some dead reeds. And there was nothing behind the reeds that these eyes could have been on. There's no way it could have been anything else. But when you're in the woods and these things are out there, you're going to hear things, and if you're not aware of it, you're not going to know what it is. But we've heard wood knocks, and I've heard a tree being shaken where there's no wind. This was near Tyler, Texas. In about 2004, I guess. I was with a Boy Scout group with my son, and I'm walking around in the woods with a few of the dads, and gigantic tree being shook just off to the side, and the other dads didn't hear it, but I did, and I was really tuned into it. So you wouldn't hear those things unless you're aware of it. We're looking forward to October. We're thinking we'll have something happen. We're definitely hoping. It's been a lot wetter this summer than it's been lately, so maybe the water will be flowing in that area. Whereas the last couple times we've been, it's been really dry, hasn't it been that way, guys?
Yes. Not a lot going on there.
Yeah, like on some of the shows I've seen in documentaries, like I scour the earth for Bigfoot documentaries. I know there's one on History Channel where they were showing like the food paths and what they were possibly eating and stuff. I mean, that stuff you have to definitely take into consideration, their diet and where, the kind of stuff they eat. And if it's, dry, then they've probably gone somewhere else, like stuff like that. I mean, that's things that I guess you have to take into consideration when you're looking for these beings. I just saw a movie recently. I don't know if you've seen it, but if not, check it out, Letters from the Big Man. I just interviewed Christopher Munch about that movie, and he's a filmmaker, and it's the best Bigfoot movie I've ever seen. It gets into all the stuff you're talking about with the tree knocks and all that stuff, but the woman actually starts having contact with the being, and there may be some stuff that some people might find a little kooky about it, but in the movie, the thing telepathically communicates with her. It's kind of like Bigfoot E.T., the movie. It was really good. I swear, it's the best Bigfoot movie I've ever seen in my life. It's really just, it's great. The Bigfoot just looks so amazing. And, when I interviewed him, I brought up all these horror movies about Bigfoot. There's like so many sleazy Bigfoot horror movies that are terrible about Sasquatch, cannibals and eating you, and, the cheesy sci-fi ones. Of course, they're fun to watch, but they're still like, hate Bigfoot propaganda. So I brought that up, and he had also had Tom Powell in the documentary, in the DVD, and a lot of other people in the community. But if you ever get a chance, it just came out on DVD, I think. It was big at Sundance. It's called Letters from the Big Man. I would say it's the best Bigfoot movie I've ever seen. But any other stories? What time is it? Let me check. Oh, okay. So, any other stories you'd like to share? Or?
Well, I was going to say, going back to what they eat. When we were in Falk last, Rob, who is our Ethan Hunt of our team.
Hey, I'm Ethan Hunt meets Chuck Norris meets MacGyver. That's how I describe my role.
He had this completely brilliant idea to try a new baiting technique, which he's extremely proud of, and that is using Jell-O powder in an area. And so we've tried that several times, and when we were in Falk, we did put out Jell-O powder all in this area. And we just threw it out on trees and on the bushes there, and the idea being that it is a powder, so it can be carried on the wind and spread out through an area. And it spread out, and a few hours later came back, and you could smell it, long before you got to the area where we'd actually thrown it out. So it was definitely an attractive. But we tried it there in Falk, and we'd also cooked bacon later that night, and we put bacon out and left it, and we were, I guess it was close to 2 in the morning, and we were back at the fire with some other researchers, and all of a sudden we heard this really, really, I don't know, it's almost like a growl scream in the middle of a bunch of coyotes. It was pretty wild, and I was able to capture part of it with my iPod, and that video is actually on our website at bigfootchicks.blogspot.com. You can hear it. I believe it's called Coyotes. But we were able to capture that, and it's really interesting sounding. And I've since heard another video that's also posted on my blog with a similar sound. And another researcher out there took the video of this other group that heard the sound, and they compared it to coyotes, they compared it to wolves, and kind of played it back, and then they compared it to an ape and or a gorilla, and it was really interesting how close what we heard sounded a lot like that gorilla when it was played back. So it was really, really interesting. So, maybe our Jell-O technique had something to do with that. Maybe it actually did call in somebody. So that's something we're always looking into, trying, new techniques to attract them to that area. So that was kind of exciting.
what do you think about the pancake thing? Like, I saw some video of a little bitty dwarf Bigfoot running up and grabbing a pancake and running off, and I don't know if it was real or not, but they were definitely acting serious like it was an actual video of Bigfoot taking a pancake, which I don't know the story behind that video, but I think it was on Bigfoot and one of those sites, and it showed some little being run up and grab a pancake. Like, people say they leave pancakes out for them, so I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah, there's a famous video about pancakes that the FRO has put out. I believe it's in Kentucky, and you can actually see something that has human-like hands picking up these pancakes that somebody left out for it, and you can see it picking it up and kind of nibbling on it. So it's hard to say. It's blurry and it's not real clear, so you can't see for sure what it is you're looking at. But it is interesting, and there's a couple of videos like that. They're out there. I think I've seen the one that you're talking about. It's like this little person, and they kind of
it's in like looks like it's in a street light or something.
Yeah. They kind of look like they have a beekeeper's hat on or something. It's kind of weird looking. But that's I've seen that video, and pancakes are good. I like pancakes.
Yeah, I like pancakes too. That's what I'm saying. I was just going to say real quick, there was some UFO alien story where some guy supposedly went to it, and there were people there that looked like him, and they gave him pancakes. So there's something weird about pancakes. I don't know what it is.
Pancakes, they say we come in peace.
Yeah, have a pancake.
They wear them on their head. It keeps the rain. They walk around with them on their head. It keeps the rain from getting their hair wet.
I have to say, the Bigfoot community is just as interesting as the UFO and paranormal community, and I didn't realize it was so large until like this year, really. And when I was a kid, I thought I saw something kind of Bigfootish, and I freaked out, and I was like 8 or something, and my mom called the police, and they came out there and said it was spider monkeys or something weird. That's the only Bigfoot experience I've ever had. But I kind of lean towards the Native American shaman weird Bigfoot thing more than anything else, but that's just my preference. That's what I think is so great about the community. You can, whatever your perspective is, that should be fine, and, whatever floats your boat, whatever you think it is, goodbye by me. Everybody's welcome to their own perspective. But I have Kathy Strain Moskewitz's book, and it's Cannibals, Giants, and Monsters, and me and Andy interviewed her, and there's just these wild Native American stories about the hairy man, and they've been passing these stories around for generations about these beings, these Bigfoot, and they're weird. There's weird stories like of Bigfoot being a healer and being accepted in the tribes, and actually like Bigfoot women married into Native tribes, and then Native women married into Bigfoot tribes. There's just weird stuff like that in the book, and these Native American folklore stories. So, there's just a lot of weird stuff about Bigfoot. And the thing that makes me also think on some level that they're, I don't know if paranormal is the word or not, but they seem to have the ability that they're so intelligent that they can trick people. Like they put sticks in cameras, and they've never been caught except for the supposed Justin story, which I'm on the fence with that one. They just seem that they're so smart. No one's really ever caught one I know of. They don't find bodies. They don't. It just seems like they're definitely a few intelligent levels up than humans on some level in that regard when it comes to what they are, actually.
Well, Melissa probably has some stories for you about them being caught. They actually have been caught. It's just none have been caught recently. There's a huge historical archive, and you can go to BigfootChicks.com and see it. Melissa adds 1 or 2 a day, and we have a database of several hundred just historic newspaper articles that talk about just different things you wouldn't. They're unbelievable. And they're written, starting in the 1700s through the 18 and 1900s, like you would expect to see if something like this really did exist. And in some of those stories, they've actually caught them, and they have stories of, some of them, Bigfoot, killed people and, left one man alive, and he told the story. And I don't know, Melissa, what's some of the more recent articles that you've written about? Have you written about any lately where they caught one?
Not lately, but I do remember posting about one where they caught one, and I was speculating as to why it is that there's several accounts, in these historical records of them being captured, and why we've been unable to really capture one today. And I was just speculating that, at the time that these articles were written, people were living in the new frontier, and they were ready for anything. They had to be ready for anything, and the average man was a farmer or a hunter and worked outside and was probably very physically fit, very strong, and they didn't mess around. Their land was important to them, and their families had to be protected. Just didn't know they were up against the new frontier, and so you get a bunch of these boys scared. They're all going to band together and lasso this thing down. And I think, and that's kind of the account that I remember writing about in that particular story. I think these guys, they basically wrestled it to the ground and took it in to the sheriff's department or whatever, to the local jail, and it wouldn't talk, and they just couldn't make any sense of this being at all. It's kind of interesting, but there are several accounts, these historical records, where they have actually captured this quote-unquote wild man. So it's really, really interesting.
I remember some story about some female-type ape-like or creature that got caught a long time ago and it died in captivity or something weird. I can't remember the name of it. They named it something. But I know that I've heard the story about the dude that was kidnapped by them or something, and then they wanted the guy to, shag Bigfoot chicks and make, hybrid babies or whatever, and he, ran away. Something weird like that. But I've heard that story, too. What time is it? 54. Okay. So, when is y'all's next trip? You said Oklahoma?
Yeah, we're going to Oklahoma, and we're leaving in about a week and a half, actually, to go out there. And
a week and a half?
Yeah, it's a week and a half. Almost. Not quite 2 weeks. And so, anyway, we've been in that area before, and it's an area that's known for a lot of sightings, and that's I was going to say one of the first times we went into that area, there was a really interesting experience where one of the guys on the expedition had gone across from up and gone fishing in the river, and he was by himself, and he was throwing his line in the water, and after he threw his line in, he caught a fish. The fishing was really good that day. He just kept pulling them out one after the other, and so he plopped in his line, caught a fish, pulled it out, and as soon as he pulled out the fish, he saw or heard something go in the water right as he pulled the fish out. And so he decided to move a little further downstream, threw his line in, almost immediately caught another fish, pulled it out, and then he heard something else splash in the water behind him. And then he was maybe something falling out of this tree that I'm standing under, so he decided to move out from under the tree. So he's in a very open area, and threw his line in the water. There was nothing. He's not standing under a tree or anything. Threw his line in the water. Almost immediately, again, caught a fish and pulled it out. And he goes, if I, see something or hear something again, I'm going to get really. So he was pulling his line out, had the fish dangling on the end, and out of the corner of his eye, he sees a rock come around the side of him, and it just missed him and goes into the water as he pulled the fish out. And so he put his run reel down and just walked calmly back to base camp to get other people to say, come over here, there's somebody over here throwing rocks at me. So it was really exciting because that happened in the middle of the afternoon, and that was right, it's right near where the area we were going. And then the first night that we were there, we were able to get a response to our house, and one of our friends that was doing some recording was able to capture that. So it's a very active area, and there's been a lot of really good activity recorded there. And so we're hoping, like Rob was saying, since it's been a wetter summer that perhaps that will aid in the activity level, and that we'll be able to capture some things this time and get what we're all hoping for, and that's an actual view of the creature, and that would be exciting.
Was that guy smoking a...
Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Was that guy smoking a cigar?
No, he was not.
There's lots of tales of Bigfoot smacking guys' mouths while they're fishing. And in fact, there was one right... I think it was probably within Watoga State Park where you guys had one of you had your experience that John Keel wrote about, where Bigfoot had smacked a cigar out of some guy's mouth. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out.
I think we thought you were making a Doobie reference.
No. Oh, Keel speculated that Bigfoot can see infrared better than we can. So they will notice heat sources like a cigar burning or air conditioning units on trailers. Apparently, Bigfoot will often bang on or destroy air conditioners or things on houses that have a heat signature. And certain cars back in the day, the '57 Ford Galaxy, I think, had the most powerful engine, and there were incidents where Bigfoot would slam on the hood of those cars.
Right. There's a lot of speculation that they can see the infrared. A friend of ours actually just got some really good footage. It's very, very interesting out of Alabama, and you can see something moving, and it appears to be moving on two legs, and it's just out of the reach of this FLIR camera that he was using to record it. So it's just on the faint edges. It tests the limits of this camera. So it's really, really interesting. There's been other video of things that were captured also, and it just seems like you just see a hand or an edge of something moving around, and there's a lot of speculation in the Bigfoot community that they can see the infrared, and there are some newer cameras that have come out recently that I don't know the names or the numbers on these cameras, that they're supposed to be really, really, really quick with their flash, and the flash is supposed to be really, really faint, even in infrared, so that if you can see the infrared, you can't see it on these flashes. It's really, really faint, and I believe they've had more success with those cameras also, from what I understand.
Hey, everybody, we got to take a 10-minute break, so you're listening to the UFO Paranormal Radio Network with Church of Mabus, churchofmabusradio.com, and we'll be back in 10 minutes from our break, so keep your pants on. We'll be right back. See you in a bit. Keep your skivvies on. That's right. Especially Andy. Woohoo! What was that monkey noise? Oh, that was an Andy. Hey, I'll be right back. I gotta shake the dew off my lily. I'll be right back. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. Don't hang up or anything. If you gotta go get a drink or restroom or whatever, just don't hang up. And 10 minutes.
Are we muted from the public? Can we talk amongst ourselves?
Yeah, we're not live right now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
How do I
We are Continuing song at Church Airport is withholding information from the general public on this subject.
The Church of Mabus.
Welcome back to the Church of Mabus. Coming at you live on Saturday night from UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Make sure you check out our site, churchofmabusradio.com. That's Church of Mabus radio.com. It's all kinds of stuff there, my Examiner articles and all kinds of stuff. I recently interviewed Alex Gray, the artist, visionary who did the covers to Tool, the band's albums, and we talked about Tool and discussed the band Tool and his art and all kinds of stuff. You can find all kinds of, there's the Squatch Files there. I have a whole section of Bigfoot interviews I've done and the shows me and Andy have done. There's just all kinds of stuff to get into trouble with there at the website at churchofmabusradio.com. Just to say the next 2 Saturdays, the guest, Jonathan Phillips, his book, The Electric Jesus, it's about Gnostic Christ, which I'm looking into Gnostic stuff right now because I don't know a lot about it, but he's supposed to be a good interview. Christopher George, me and Christopher George from Second City are going to be interviewing a dude about Jesus, so that should be pretty interesting in itself. But the Gnostic Christ, Electric Jesus, the Velvet Painting. No, it's called the Electric Jesus. But that's next Saturday show, and the last show of September is going to be Ross Hamilton on Serpent Mounds and Star Mounds and Native American stuff. So that'll be pretty good. And then we'll get into October and all that stuff, and I'll announce those another time. So let's get back to the Bigfoot chicks. What about Angela? Does Angela got a story? Anything else you'd like to share, Angela? I'm going to balance this out now.
I've definitely heard a lot. I've heard responses to howls and calls and wood knocks and such. There was one time we were on a ridge. Goodness, I don't remember where we were. We've been so many places in Missouri. When we heard a response to a howl that just it just kept going, like it kept howling every few seconds, on and on, and then eventually it sounded like it was getting closer. And the guys that we were with kind of freaked out and wanted to get in their truck and go elsewhere. So. I've certainly heard a lot. I don't have any of the cool stories that Melissa and Rob do yet. I'm hoping that's my goal, is to get scared in the woods, to have something amazing happen that I get so scared I pee my pants. I'm excited for that. That's what I want.
Nice. So, why do you think Bigfoot communicates with humans or comes across humans? Do you think it's more of an infringement on territory, or do you think Bigfoot's actually trying to open up some kind of dialogue?
I think that's a really good question. I think it depends on the nature of the encounter. I believe that they are extremely curious about humans. There's so many reports of them observing, in particular, little kids, and there's reports of them like playing with the little kids' toys and jumping on trampolines. It's really kind of interesting. So they seem to be genuinely, entertained by our behavior or just curious about it.
Jumping on trampolines?
Yes, there's a story about them jumping on trampolines. It's awesome.
I missed that one.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I think they're highly curious. I think in the case, when they've been a little more aggressive, when they've growled or thrown things or been a little more menacing in some way, that maybe perhaps they were being territorial, or maybe they had young or maybe it was mating season. Who knows what was going on, but there was some reason for them to feel threatened or feel that they needed to be extra protective. I think it's a really good question, but I think by and large they're probably just very, very curious about it. because how many of us like to sit around and just people watch at the mall? That's pretty entertaining. So I can only imagine from their perspective that we would be highly entertaining to watch. At least the Bigfoot Chicks team around the campfire is always highly entertaining to watch. We try to make it that way.
I bet. So, could y'all share the horse story? Who wants to tell that story? Or talk about it on break. I think we should tell the horse story.
Melissa
I think Rob should tell it.
Have an image for it. All she has is the text she wrote, but that's okay. Go ahead and tell it. It's a fun story.
You kind of hurt my feelings now. I think I'll let you tell it.
We need to get it right.
I'll mess it up, and then I'll just disappoint you.
Go ahead, you tell it. Did you find the article?
Did I find the article? You pulled up. It's on the post. It's on our blog. Bigfoot.
Okay, I sent it to you. Yeah.
Okay. It's a story. It's I can't remember when it was. Oh, it's by 1856. That's when it took place. There was a couple of hunters that were out, and it was near the Red River, and the river was actually frozen over. And as they were walking alongside the river, one of them noticed a Bigfoot creature coming up out of the water, and it basically assaulted this hunter. It ripped his face off, and it ended up killing him. And the Bigfoot got on this horse and rode off on the horse, and the other hunter that was with the hunter that was attacked watched it all happen, so it was his account. So that was really interesting because I haven't run into too many of these old stories that have talked about Bigfoot stealing the horse, but there are some where they've taken the animals, so and actually used it like the humans did as a means of transportation. So that was kind of interesting. But
the things that's interesting about these, like this particular article, they Bigfoot wasn't really a term that was used until the 50s, and until then there wasn't even really a way to describe what people were seeing, and so people described it in their own way, and usually they called it a wild man. Most people just assumed that it was an escaped lunatic who happened to also grow long hair on his body and tusks. And there's actually articles where they'll say that he must be a lunatic who escaped from the circus, and from living in the woods so long, he grew long tusks and hair on his body. And so this refers to him as the famous wild man, who's been often encountered on the borders of Arkansas and northern Louisiana, which is right where I am. I'm like 100 feet from the Red River where this thing took place, in downtown Shreveport, right, which is right on the Red River. And so the Red River was frozen over at the time, and it's just an interesting story. And when I came across it, I'm in Caddo Parish, which is where this thing took place. And just to think that there's, this was a part of the history of the area, and a lot of people, don't realize if you go and look at the history of your own area and do some research, you're very likely going to find a history of sightings in your own area because they've been seen and reported in all 50 states at one point or another. And so finding, a story that you can identify with locally is not going to be difficult to do at all.
In that story, it is interesting that they talk about how the Bigfoot did after he ripped the hunter off of his horse. He ripped all the riding paraphernalia off the horse. He ripped the saddle off and the bridle and everything, and just basically rode it bareback off. So I thought that was interesting as well.
That's hot. He probably ate them. I don't know. What do we know about their diet? I've heard deer, and I've heard berries and stuff. So what do we know about their diet? Like, what do they actually eat?
Well, there are stories that that have witnessed. People have witnessed them hunting deer, and that they have a system for it, basically, where they hunt in groups, and a couple one or two of them will spook the deer to run in a certain direction, and the others will be hiding behind trees and reach out and grab the legs of the deers and basically just kind of whip them around and snap and break their legs. That, you know, there's several accounts of hunting parties being witnessed like that. So, and then there's accounts of deer carcasses being found, you know, in the middle of the woods that are completely mangled and twisted and just kind of killed in a, you know, what we would consider a natural way. So, you know, it's I guess there's a pretty good chance that they're living off deer, and you know, any kind of natural vegetation in a given area, and hogs, and there's reports of hogs. Also, they seem to have a dislike for dogs, and I don't know if that's because it's a food source or if it's just because they know that there are pets and that we like. I don't know.
You just read my mind on that when I was going to ask you about the dog thing, because I've been seeing all the weird dead dog Bigfoot things and the coyote stuff in a tree and dead dogs under sticks and weird stuff. Like, I guess maybe because the dogs get onto their scent and expose them. Maybe that's why.
That could be. There's also a thought out there that coyotes and Bigfoots have a symbiotic relationship. There's been some interesting...
What does that mean exactly?
That they... oh, Rob. That they help each other to survive. That's what it means.
Kind of like a chick and a dog?
No.
That's weird because the coyote's a Native American trickster, so that's the coyote's a strange being, no doubt about it. So they're like pets for them, maybe, or something? Or allies?
Well, there's just, I've heard a couple of recordings where it sounded like the Bigfoot was calling the coyote in, because you could actually coyote move towards where the alleged Bigfoot howl was coming from. I've heard that happen. I've heard recordings of that a couple of times. So it's you know, there's no way to know for sure if that's what's happening, but it's a theory I've heard tossed out there several times.
And then they can also mock, make the noise of almost a lot of different animals. Coyotes probably included. They make a lot of weird different animal noises, right?
Yeah, the famous sick owl.
I have an old article I'll share with you. This is by far my favorite, just because of the way that it's written. This is from the Anaconda Standard in Anaconda, Montana, Wednesday morning, January 29th, 1902, and it goes like this. It's entitled Idaho's Wild Man, and this is from 1902. And this is how it goes. 8 feet tall, covered in hair, possessing the semblance of humanity and fierce with the fierceness of a wild beast. That is the description of Idaho's newest wild man, according to the Voracious Desert News. An Associated Press dispatch from Salt Lake City gave the tale in full. There is a familiar note in the story as it comes, an intelligible something that recalls to mind those always thrilling and delightful little yarns in the New York Sun used to print from New Jersey about wild men. But of course, since the Desert News is a church paper and filled with piety, the slightest insinuation that the thrilling item from Idaho is not founded on fact is entirely out of place. The Idaho wild man, according to those who have seen him, is a regular old-fashioned boogeyman, the materialization of that awful, hideous, soul-thrilling thing that formed the subject of a little ditty in Sinbad. When the party of skaters on the Portneuf River saw him approaching, perhaps they were minded of the words of that ditty, for certainly he tried to catch them. That he failed was due to the fact that they beat him to the wagons. No one can blame them for their fright. Even an Idaho man is not wittingly going against an 8-foot monster which leaves a footprint 22 inches long and 6 inches wide. One well-directed blow from a foot like that can put a man out more completely than several drinks of Galena Street whiskey. A peculiar feature of the Idaho wild man's track is that it only shows 4 toes, the number now affected by Carrie Nation since her distressing accident of several days ago when her new tomahawk amputated a pink one from her right foot. 4 toes, according to a scientific gentleman who's been gazing into the future is a number that will be fashionable on each human foot several centuries hence. It cannot be that the creature is the new man, a human placed upon this earth in advance of his proper era. Idaho is a progressive state, but that she has leaped ahead several ages without the rest of the world being aware of it is hardly probable. The four toes do not prove the existence of a new man. More likely, a closer examination of the track would reveal that what appears to be the mark of four toes is the imprint of a cloven hoof. If the snow behind a faint line is traced, as if a forked tail had been dragged along, the identity is established. The 20 men from Chesterfield who are in pursuit would best be aware, else all that is left of them on earth is a smell of brimstone and a fond remembrance.
Wow.
Very fun. So we have hundreds of articles that are just like this, and it's really great to see that there's actually a historical archive where people are talking about this thing in such a way. And this is just 4 paragraphs, but there's some articles that are 30 paragraphs long and cover a whole page where they're talking about a creature that's been captured or has killed kids and things like that. So, if you're just talking about circumstantial evidence, there's enough out there from a historical perspective that really lends to the fact that this thing really exists.
I definitely believe it does. Where do you find a lot of these articles? Online or any other specific place?
A lot of them came from a guy named Scott McLean who did some research in like 2003 and created a publication with them. But if you go to newspaperarchives.org, you can search on keywords and find them yourself.
Cool. Definitely. All right, Andy, you got some questions?
No, I'm just enjoying the stories.
Me too.
A lot of times I just ask a guest, what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you? Sometimes you get some interesting answers. Maybe that's a good question.
I have a story. Melissa and I were up in North Georgia by ourselves. We were out late one night, and we were in the parking lot at the trailhead. So we're talking, walking around the parking lot. Melissa was doing some videos, and I believe she was playing back a video at the time it happened, but we heard this horrendous, we could describe it as a growling monkey scream. And it was very close to us, like at the edge of the parking lot, this girly monkey scream. And for the longest time, we were, completely taken off guard. And for the longest time, we couldn't figure out what it was. We're like, oh, maybe there's something there. And no, it turns out it was an owl. That's a sound that the barred owl makes. So it's important to know what the woodland creatures sound like when you're spending time in the woods, so you don't get it mixed up. But that was certainly a very strange sound to hear, especially so close. Girly monkey scream.
So we got about 30 minutes left. Real quick, what is your website so we can go ahead and let everybody know that?
Our blog is bigfootchicks.blogspot.com, or you can find, or just bigfootchicks.com, and you can find us at Facebook/bigfootchicks.
So how long have you been together as a team?
A little over a year now.
Is it? Right? No, yeah, it's been 2 years, right?
Is it 2 years?
Oh, no, I guess it was March last year.
Yeah, since we formed Bigfoot Chicks.
Year and a half.
Yeah, right. About a year. Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of curious, what's some of the equipment you bring out there with you when you go out there? What's some different types of equipment?
We do a lot of video recording, so any kind of video recorder that we have with us, take a lot of those out to the field. We take traditional cameras as well and audio recorders. We often have access to a FLIR, and I had a thermal, but it's broken. Trying to get that fixed. So when that's fixed, we'll have my thermal back out there with us. So just the traditional kinds of things that you would take out to see at night.
So what is your ultimate goal with this? Is it evidence? I know it's not. You don't want to grab it and cage it up like King Kong, because I've already interviewed you once on Examiner, so I know that's not your gig. So is this mostly just evidence? That's the main reason you're out there, or what's your ultimate goal with this research?
Well, I'm speaking for myself, but I think my teammates feel pretty much the same way. I mean, we're all in it first to have an experience. We'd like to witness the creature in its natural habitat so that we can, say for ourselves and know without a shadow of a doubt that it really does exist and have that experience of witnessing one. And then, and then second, to gain the evidence to bring it back to the Bigfoot community in support of its existence, that it, to show and to ultimately prove to science that it does exist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some people out there packing heat that would love the King Kong, is what I call it, do the whole thing where they catch it and it goes nuts and eats people or whatever. The King Kong syndrome. But there's definitely, I'm sure, hunters out there that would do that in a minute. That's why I don't really like the hunting word that much when it comes to Bigfoot. But I like investigating or researching. Hunting, to me, seems like it's more like we're going to catch you and kill you and parade you around like King Kong with your head on a stick. And, that hasn't happened in a while, of course. And when it does, it turns out it's a hoax, like in modern day times, like with the whole Georgia thing Andy was talking about. And what do y'all think about the Justin situation?
It's a great story. And it would be something if that were true. I know that he did take a polygraph test and pass it, but as I stated with one of my teammates earlier today, it's quite easy to pass a polygraph test. And and I don't know if we can submit that as evidence one or not with that, but I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence with the Justin Shmia thing. It's an interesting story. Perhaps Rob could share his insight.
Yeah. Oh, wait, Justin Bieber? I'm not sure. I really don't know the Justin story.
Oh, Justin Shmia, the man that killed 2 Sasquatches out in California.
And what's the story?
Well, he was bear hunting and came upon, he went to check his baiting area, and when he did, he came upon a couple of, I think it was several large, what he described as adult Bigfoot, and then some small family of Bigfoots there, and he ended up shooting shooting one of the adults.
So what, did the government run off with it or something?
No. He shot one of the adults, and then he shot and killed, he says, one of the little juvenile Bigfoots, and left it there because he didn't know what to do, because he wasn't sure what it was, and knew it wasn't a bear. So he drove off and left it, and they came back, I guess it was like a week or so later, and they found the remains, and the remains were sent in for testing and stuff. So that's the story as I understand it.
Who came back with him?
I don't remember.
It's supposedly something about cutting a piece of meat off of it and sending it to Melba Ketchum.
Right, yes.
Study.
That's part of it. Yes, that's part of it.
I don't know. But he didn't take a camera with him when he cut the meat off?
The only evidence we know of is something that this lady, Melba Ketchum, is supposed to have, and, supposed to be releasing the results, and we've been waiting for, centuries for that. But I did interview David Paulides, who wrote Tribal Bigfoot and the Hoopla Project, and he's like her boss, and he said something in the interview that stirred up a lot of people, that all the DNA they've gotten back from Bigfoot come back as mostly human. So that upset a lot of people for some reason, but he's her boss. So that's what it seems like. When he was answering that question, like he was pointing towards the Justin case on some level, that like the DNA came back as humen. So
well, if I'm going back where there's a Bigfoot body, I'm taking a photo and a video at the very least.
Yeah, the body. If I accidentally killed a Bigfoot, I would be, you know, it would suck, but I'm going to be hauling the body back. I'm against killing them, but if you're going to be stupid enough to do it, at least bring the damn body back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a tall tale until there's something concrete. You know, it's just a story.
Yeah, and and the fact that he waited so long to go back there, you know, afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I've interviewed him before, and if the way he's answered the questions, he felt so bad about killing it. And I'm like, if this guy's lying, he should, you know, win an Emmy or something. So if he, you know, so I don't know either. I'm still on the fence.
I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever sat around a campfire with some of the people that like to tell stories, and I'm not saying they're telling lies. I think people telling stories around campfires genuinely believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
But a lot of times my experience is that you have some really good storytellers, and, you know, they could very easily, you know, you can tell a story about the truth and it come across, you know, very well, and you could make it all you want and you wouldn't know the difference. And so, I don't know, I mean, I really, in my time, and I've been with 3 or 4 different groups and been out with a lot of people, and this goes back to why I like, you know, Melissa and Angela so much, because we're not sitting around the fire stories type of people. We're out at 2 a.m., no trails, no real, not having been to the area before, you know, driving to the end of a dirt road somewhere and parking the car and just heading off into the woods for the next 4 to 5 hours, where we're hiking 5 miles. So, you know, stories don't go very far until there's evidence, and, you know, so I've heard a lot of stories, and most of them, all of them, end up really on a dead end. So this one, to me, unless there's a body or whatever else, you know, photos, video, common sense should come into play. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's with every subject. There's always a story, and then there's speculation, and then, of course, evidence is always mute on a lot of points. Not in all cases, but a lot.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stories. I mean, one guy, the guy's name on the web was Fig Newton, and this guy just made, you know, so you have all kinds of people that just make things up and can do it with totally a straight face. And so I don't know, I just don't place much. Have
you ever looked at someone and whispered, "I want to eat a Fig Newton" to them, and they see your lip movement?
Yeah, actually, the Bigfoot chicks just whispered that to me, actually, and that's a fact. They didn't have to say anything. I could read their thoughts just looking at their faces.
I don't. As far as Bigfoot, my biggest thing is I think that they could be in tune with nature, and they're definitely maybe smarter than humans on some level. I don't know for sure. Not like every human, but I'm sure there's. You know, so I would think. What about the whole missing 411 thing? Have you guys heard about that from David Paulides? All these missing people, and then it's been on Coast to Coast, and it's about, he wrote these books on 111, and the whole books are about like hundreds of thousands of missing people from national parks. And he's a cop. I mean, these stories are real. People are really vanishing from parks, and the books are called Missing 411, and they're terrifying, and they're about real cases of people, a cover-up of people who have gone missing in national parks, like disappeared off the face of the earth. Some of them have been found, like, naked, and they claim that hairy creatures fed them berries. And this dude's a cop, and the stories are, like, real missing people. And the thing that's so weird about it is if you can ask Joe Montaldo, the owner of the network, if you ask him about Bigfoot and those books, he'll go crazy. Like, he'll get mad and he gets upset. Like, he doesn't want to. He wrote books about Bigfoot, and then suddenly he's writing books about missing 411, about all these missing people. But if you actually try to bring up Bigfoot and ask, well, did Bigfoot maybe take the people? He gets mad and he won't talk about it. And I was watching a show. I was going to say, I was watching a show, and I hadn't heard about this book personally, but I was watching a show. What is it, the Alaska State Trooper show that's on? It's a reality show where they feature the Alaskan State Troopers. These guys, you know, are out on snowmobiles, and they
they are like in the extreme cold, doing police work. And they were talking to one of the ladies on the show, and somebody had gone missing, and she's, one of the things that they said on the show was that that's a term that people use up there all the time, is that this person's gone missing, because it happens so frequently up there that people just kind of disappear in the wilderness up there, and you never hear from them again or never find anything from them again. And so they just say, so-and-so has just gone missing, and it's just, everybody knows somebody that's gone missing. So it was kind of interesting, and it occurred to me that, that could potentially be a part explanation. Certainly the size of the wilderness up there plays a big role. It's probably easy to get lost, but a Sasquatch type creature interfering with you up there would definitely play a role. So I just thought that was interesting. And then to hear the story of 411 is interesting. It's something I'll probably look into a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. They're called Missing 411, and definitely will creep you out. No doubt about it. They're great books, but they'll freak you out. There's no doubt about it. They're going to the cases like it's kind of like a true crime book. I mean, it goes into the details of every case, and some of these people, they found their bodies and their bones were like ground up into like weird ashes and stuff, just weird stuff. It's definitely, and the parks are covering it up. They don't want to cause a panic or whatever. That's another thing. There's a lot of stories about the government covering up Bigfoot and stuff like that, like bones and skulls, and kind of keeping it away from the public. And like I saw something from a park once or something that said, there's laws that have been passed, you can't hunt, kill Bigfoot. And I've heard people talk about, like, there's been a few stories, like there was a Mount St. Helens story, and a fire, and a bunch of Bigfoot bodies, and supposedly the government came out there and retrieved them. There's another story by Tom
I
Powell.
love that story.
Yeah.
I love that story.
The good one. And then Tom Powell had one in his book, The Locals, about another fire, and they found a Bigfoot body, and, like, the government came out and told everybody in the hospital to keep their mouths shut and took it off somewhere. And one of those weird suits that are out lately, I had a picture of them. They're like those military suits where the guy was pretending to be a Bigfoot on the road and got hit by a car.
A ghillie suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, are those reverse engineered from Bigfoot cadavers or whatever? I think that crossed my mind when I first saw that story, and then someone posted a picture of a bunch of people marching with those things on it. It was like a Wookiee army. But yeah, that story was recently. That guy that wore one of those suits. What is it called again?
Ghillie suit. Ghillie.
A ghillie suit. Ghillie suit, and he was trying to apparently. I guess freak people out on the highway that he was a Bigfoot, and one of them smacked him and he died. That's gotta suck.
It was two teenage girls. One teenage girl hit him and then knocked him into the road, and there was a teenage girl behind him and ran over him. Terrible.
Oh, man. That's what happens when you hoax stuff. You hoax them now.
Yeah, unfortunate.
All right, do y'all got any other stories you'd like to share, information? We got about 15 minutes left. If y'all have anything else you'd like to share, just offhand that comes up?
Well, I can tell you that panthers do exist in Florida. When you said that at the beginning, I was thinking about, I was on an expedition with the BFRO down in Florida. It's a really funny story. I was actually, my husband actually had come with me on that expedition, and I had a thermal and he had night vision, and we had branched off from another group, and the group that we had been with had walked a ways from us, and we were all a great distance, but still in radio communication at the base camp where Matt Moneymaker was. And I was standing around with the thermal, and I caught movement, and noticed it was, kind of in the vicinity, and I pulled thermal from my eyes and was talking to my husband, telling him that I got some sort of hit. It was low to the ground. It wasn't a Bigfoot or anything really morbid. It was there. And during this time, Matt Moneymaker is on the radio, and somebody has an open mic. And for those that don't know what an open mic is, it's where somebody has a walkie-talkie, and they have the PTT button, the button that you push to talk, depressed. And so it stays that way, and it makes it hard for any other transmissions to get out. Some can get out, but not all can get out. And so somebody had an open mic, and Matt Moneymaker is on the radio trying to tell people how to check for an open mic. So this is going on, so we can't communicate on the radio because all we hear is Matt Moneymaker preaching a sermon about how to check for an open mic. And so I put the thermal back up to my eyes, and I see it. And it's a cat. It's a huge cat with a huge tail, and I can see it. It's walking, and you know how cats kind of hunched down and they stalk. It was walking that kind of walk directly towards me, and it had this huge tail flailing out behind it. And I really got nervous at that point because it was walking right at me, and I couldn't. I had a radio in my right hand and the thermal in my left hand, and I had it up to my eyes, and my husband's basically we're standing back to back, and I'm scared, and I'm trying to tell him I can't get on the radio. Finally, I just elbow my husband, and I just get out, big cat. and so finally, I'm able to, we couldn't get on the radio to tell anybody that it was out there, and we couldn't get out on the radio to tell the group behind us that it was out there because Matt Moneymaker is just droning on in a sermon about how to check for the open mic as only Matt Moneymaker can. And so finally, as I elbow my husband, and he's got night vision, has the thermal, and he turns and he looks and he doesn't see anything. And at that point, I put the thermal back up, and the thing's walking away from us, but it's walking in the direction of the other group. And somebody out in the field had one of those hunter's collar, those that dead rabbit or rabbit dying collar things that hunters use. And they'd been calling it. I was trying to get on the radio to tell them to stop doing that because there was a panther on the loose in the area, and and I'm sure it was responding to that call. So anyway, it was kind of a funny story. We finally got off, or Matt finally got off the radio, and whoever had the open mic finally fixed it. We were able to radio to the other group that something was moving towards them, and like, are you sure bipedal? And I'm like, yes, I'm sure it's not bipedal. I didn't want to tell them what I thought it was because I didn't want to scare anybody, but I just, just keep your eyes open and tell them to stop using that collar. So that was really funny. So I'll tell you that yes, panthers do actually exist because I saw one with a thermal walking right towards me in Florida.
Nice. I saw one too. I walked out really early in the morning, like at sunup, and suddenly I heard a hiss, and I saw the back end of it run into the woods and a long tail, and I went back inside. They're not very settling to see just out of the blue. They surprise you, that's for sure. I see their prints around here all over the place. Definitely. So what about, have you guys... guys and gals, come across any footprints or anything physical evidence-wise or hair or anything?
I have. I was with a group in North Carolina, and we tracked out a bunch of prints, and we were actually able to make a cast of that print. So that was really exciting to be a part of that group. I did that actually shortly after I had attended a tracking weekend, learning about how to do man tracking, and there was actually a special segment on Bigfoot tracking. It was taught by some Bigfoot researchers who are professional trackers. So that was really exciting because I felt pretty proud of that I was able to be a part of that team and find those prints. So the person that lived in the area actually still has that cast today. So it's a really interesting area. But the area where it was found was interesting as kind of what we refer to as a kill area. Lots and lots and lots of remains of animals, open ground, lots of deer carcasses, lots of canine carcasses. I couldn't really tell if it was coyote or dog. Definitely some sort of canine. Lots of wild turkeys, and some of the skulls were even still juicy. It was really weird. I hadn't ever seen anything like that. And they were just all kind of strewn all over this area, and that's where we found the prints. So really, really interesting. And that particular area has been researched quite a bit. There's been a lot of thermal hits in that area. And some other people that I know that are researchers that live in that area have had some other experiences up there. So, yeah, that's a very, very active area up there in North Carolina. So that's that was my print story.
Have you heard any stories about Florida? I'm in the Panhandle. Have you heard any? I know they call them skunk apes here, but have you heard any specific stories around the Florida area that you know of offhand?
Yeah, actually, right there in North Florida, where it still kind of looks like Georgia. I can't remember the name of the town there, but it's just over the border from Georgia.
That's where I am, Marietta.
Is that where you are?
Jackson County. It's like right next to Alabama and right next to Georgia. I'm like at the top, and they're both touching.
Okay. Well, this must have been near there. I went and researched. I was actually on an expedition there, and actually one of my really cool experiences happened there on their property. If you've seen the Florida episode of Finding Bigfoot, it was those people that their yard that it happened in. They had like a vineyard at the top of their yard and a huge ravine and a creek that ran through their backyard. And I was there, and I met her, and she had come to our base camp, the owner of the property, and she had heard someone say that I, had this tracking class or whatever, and she had found some sort of footprint in her vineyard, and she asked me to come and look at it, and I kept telling her over and over again, I'm not a tracker. I'm really not. I just had this one course, I'm not a professional, but I'll be happy to look at your track. So she and I went alone. It's probably about 4:30. The sun was starting to set a little bit at that time, or maybe it was a little bit later. I can't remember if it was fall. I think it was fall. Yes, it was earlier as the sun was setting. But anyway, she and I then went out to her property, and I walked up to her vineyard, and she showed me this print, and it looked like a human child's footprint. You could see, like this classic shape of the foot, and 5 little toes. I mean, it looked like a kid's footprint. It was really wild, and but it was very human. It didn't look abnormal in any way. It just looked like a little kid had stepped in her vineyard. So I in my hurry to get over there, I hadn't brought anything with me, and I didn't have a flashlight, so I could really look at the track up close. And so I asked her if she. So she ran inside to get a flashlight, and I just had the thought as I was there by myself. If something weird's going to happen, it will be now, because she's in her house and there's no one around, and I don't have a radio. And so I just had that thought, but I pushed it out of my mind so I couldn't get freaked out at all. And before I could even give it a second thought, she was back with the flashlight. So I take the flashlight, I'm looking at the track. I can't really tell anything. I can't really say for sure what it is. And I stand up, and as I do, she says, "Do you smell that?" And I'm like, "Smell what?" She goes, "Walk down the way that I just came up here and see if you catch wind of that." And she goes, "Whenever I have these weird experiences where I think they're around, I smell that." I'm like, "Okay." So I start walking back down her front yard towards her house and kind of circle around to the wood line. And as I do that, my phone rings. And it's my husband. He hadn't come with me on this particular trip, and so I was kind of checking in with him and telling him about what I'm doing. And I was in a good mood, and I was, happy and fine, and I was walking around, did not catch wind of the smell at all. And when I finished my phone call, I had circled all the way around her front yard and come to the edge of her vineyard. So I hung up my phone, shoved it in my pocket, and started walking down the middle of her vineyard back towards her. And as I took my first step into the vineyard, it started like on the backs of my legs and crawled all the way up to the back of my head, and it was like goosebumps on top of goosebumps, and it was the weirdest thing. And as that happened, and as I started to walk towards her, and I was experiencing that, I heard one of her dogs start barking, and it was like an alert bark. It was like barking at something. It was a constant bark, and so I just calmly walked back towards her, knelt down and looked at the track one more time, and I stood up, and I said, I just looked at her. I said, "Are you feeling okay? Do you feel anything?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've got goosebumps." And she held her arm up, and we put our arms next to each other, and we both had these huge goosebumps all over our arms. And I said, "Well, I noticed about the time that I started feeling these goosebumps that your dog started barking." She goes, "Yeah, if they're around, my young dog will be out in the back barking, and my other two will be curled up with their tails tucked under on either side of the porch." So I said, well, let's go check on your dog. And sure enough, the dog that was barking was the young dog, and each of the older dogs were curled up with their tails on either side, on our house. And about that time, I started hearing something being. It sounded like something being thrown through the leaves of the tree. Something being thrown, and she had a walkie-talkie back at her house, so we got it, and I got on and I called. Of course, no one had their walkie-talkies on because it was like the big lunch or dinner meal or whatever. People were preparing for dinner, and no one had their walkie-talkies handy. And so I'm calling and calling on the radio. Finally, somebody does call back, and it's a newbie, somebody that's never done this before. It's a guy that's right around the corner, and I said, do you mind just coming up here? I just like somebody else to be up here to kind of witness what's going on, and we're kind of a little bit unnerved. It'd be nice if he came up here. And he's like, sure, I'll be there in just a second. So when I finished talking to him on the radio, I started walking around to the direction of where I heard something being thrown through the trees. And as I did, as I cleared her house and looked towards the backyard, there was movement out of the corner of my eye. I have no idea what it was. Could have been a butterfly, could have been a bird, could have been anything. I didn't see it. It was very fast out of the corner of my eye. And there was nothing there, and whatever I was hearing being thrown through the trees, it stopped. And she and I just looked at each other and we were talking. She said, yeah, I've often heard that sound before. And just about that time, as we finished talking about it, this guy pulls up and walks towards us, and as soon as he gets to us and we kind of tell him what happened, immediately the air relaxes. Just the dog stops barking. The feeling in the air just becomes a lot more relaxed, and it just quits. Everything just quits, and goes back to the way it was before. And it was just the weirdest thing. And she and I both experienced it, and she said that happened to her a lot. So, and she'd had all kinds of really wild experiences, really, really, really amazing things happen on her property. So, I thought it was kind of cool that I got to experience that while I was on her property. So something was definitely there and definitely watching us, I think.
Definitely. Well, we're at the end here. We've had 2 great hours and enjoyed it tremendously. Definitely a pleasure. And one thing I want to say is when y'all are out there in the woods, bring the mosquito repellent, because like an hour and a half from here, someone in Crestview just died from that West Nile virus, and mosquitoes are bad out here in Florida. So I've been paranoid about the West Nile virus thing lately, because someone just died like an hour away from here, an hour and 30 minutes away from just a mosquito bite. I'm not sure. I think it's either I think we're really young people that are dying from it, but just the fact that a mosquito can bite you and you can die, it's creeped me out. And it happened an hour and a half from here, so definitely keep the mosquito repellent going. There's been a lot of deaths in Texas from that too, and that's been freaking me out. I have a lot of water around where I live, lakes and stuff, so I'm like paranoid now about mosquitoes. It's messing with my phobias. Definitely. But so what's your link again for your website before we go?
BigfootChicks.com. And we can also be found on Facebook. Just do a search for Bigfoot Chicks on Facebook.
All right, and we got Andy with us. Make sure you check out his new book, The Mothman Shrieks. Andy, you got something you'd like to say as we depart?
Oh, no, it was great. It was great hearing the stories, and great guests and great show, and I can't wait till the next one.
Yeah, and everybody, when Andy's
done... What about Ross?
Oh,
yeah, maybe I can Ross Hamilton or something.
What's that?
Oh, I was saying I like that Ross Hamilton guy. He'd be a good guy to maybe... I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Put in on that.
Yeah, we can probably arrange something. Let me, just everybody make sure you stop by churchofmabusradio.com, and you've been listening to UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and been listening to the Bigfoot Chicks. Everybody, have a good night, and thanks for doing the show, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.